Hi everyone and welcome to my first actual YouTube video. This is the Apostate Prophet. I want to take this opportunity and talk about something that is very important to me because it concerns me directly and all other ex-Muslims. Something that proves at once that Islam is not a religion of peace and tolerance at all. Something that every person who is confronted with Islam should know. Now let's think a bit. How would people react if a religious group and a religion in its entirety, in this case Muslims and Islam, were outlawed in the United States? How would people feel if it was banned in a Western country? Can you imagine the outcry? Well, we ex-Muslims are told we shouldn't slander or hate Islam. Did you know that leaving Islam is still widely outlawed in the Islamic world? It is forbidden for us to exist. It is forbidden for us to speak. We are not allowed to think. We are given three choices: shut up, flee, or die. Now I want to take a deep look at the Islamic sources that say so. But before we do that, let's have a look at statistics and maps. Let's look what the Islamic world does with this information right now in the 21st century. Now here's a map. This map was posted by Indie100. It is a research that was released on The Independent, which is a rather leftist news outlet. We can see here that the death penalty for apostates is still existent in 13 countries. In some of these countries, it is directly the law of the country itself. In others, it is a law in its lower jurisdictions, in its lower states. All the countries in which the death penalty for apostasy or outspoken apostasy is allowed are here: Afghanistan, Iran, Malaysia, the Maldives, Mauritania, Nigeria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, the United Arab Emirates, Yemen, and Pakistan. Now in some of these countries, as said, it is not the law of the country itself. Nigeria, for example, is not an Islamic state, but Nigeria has 12 Islamic or predominantly Muslim states. In those states, there is a Sharia court which has the ability to judge according to the Sharia, and the Sharia requires the death penalty for people who leave the religion or for people who commit blasphemy. In Pakistan, the situation is a bit different. Pakistan doesn't have a law which directly says that apostates can be killed or should be killed, but it is an Islamic state. It has a death penalty for blasphemy. So if a person leaves the religion and speaks out about it, speaks out why he left the religion, this person can basically be judged and sentenced to death. There are other countries in which the law or the laws of lower states and regions don't explicitly say that the death penalty can be applied to people who leave the religion, but in which lower authorities and lower states made such judgments before and are still practically able to make such judgments. One example of these is Egypt. Egypt is also a country where more than 85% of the population supports the death penalty for apostates. Can you believe this? 85% of the population. In Pakistan, for example, it's more than 60% of the population. There are also other countries in which apostasy is not punished with death, but it is outlawed. So if you leave the religion, you might get a prison sentence or other punishments. Such laws exist in Iraq, in Jordan, in Oman, in Syria, in parts of Indonesia, in Brunei, and so on. Other than laws in countries, we see in these statistics that a huge amount of Muslims and huge amounts of Muslims in different predominantly Muslim countries support the death punishment for ex-Muslims, for people who leave the religion and people who make it public that they left the religion. Even in Turkey, the most moderate, the most modern predominantly Muslim country, people who support such punishments are more than 10%. And I got lots of death threats before in Turkey. I was very outspoken about my apostasy when I was there, but I was still careful because you never know what people you are around. Another thing is that even if some people tolerate apostasy, they will not tolerate you talking about it and committing blasphemy. Because when you tell other people why you left the religion, you will commit blasphemy anyway. And that is punishable in most countries that don't punish apostasy at all. And it is very offensive to other people who don't really think that apostates should be killed, but think that blasphemers should be persecuted. And those are the vast majority of the world Muslim population. Now, is this a coincidence? Do you think one person, a Jewish, white, male, Arab, fake Muslim, created such rules and the whole Muslim world just adopted it by mistake? Or is it just unimportant or irrelevant that these countries are predominantly Muslim countries? Well, of course not. If you look at history, we can see that in the Ottoman Empire and in other Muslim countries and empires, the death penalty had been applied in the past. The death penalty, along other punishments, was the appropriate punishment in former nations like the Abbasids, the Umayyads, the Seljuks, the Ottomans, the Rashiduns, by which we refer to the first 4 caliphates after Muhammad, and by Muhammad himself. Which brings us to the next thing. Of course, it is not a coincidence that all these countries are predominantly Muslim countries and have such laws, because the religion itself says in these sources that apostasy should be dealt with death. Muhammad himself said this in several quotes. Here, in this example, he says that everyone who leaves the religion should be killed. In this one, he is quoted again, saying that those who discard their religion should be killed. In this one quote, which is very interesting, it even says that Ali, the son-in-law of Muhammad, burned a person who left the religion, and then another one came and said that burning is not the appropriate punishment, but that they should just be killed. And here in this very authentic hadith, a narration from the Prophet Muhammad himself, it allows again the killing of only 3 types of Muslim people. One of them is the one who leaves the religion. So the religion of Islam itself sees us as people who should die, who should be killed, who shouldn't live in this world. Today, many predominantly Muslim countries don't apply these laws anymore because they have been influenced by the West or by a more pacifist world. But the religion itself hates us. The religion itself doesn't want us to breathe and to speak and to exist. It doesn't want us to coexist with them. We ex-Muslims deserve death. We should die according to Islam. And we should respect Islam. So the next time you tell ex-Muslims to respect Islam, think twice. I'm very careful about this, but I feel totally alright when I say telling ex-Muslims to respect Islam is like telling Jews to respect Nazism. You wouldn't do that, right? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on social media. The links are in the description. And if you want to support me, you can support me on Patreon to make this whole thing much, much bigger and spread the word. We will see each other again in another YouTube video next week. Have a great weekend and stay away from Islam.